The love is undeniable. You feel them, they feel you. Every glance, every silence, every energetic pull says what words never do. So why can't you talk? Why, if the bond is so real, does the conversation never go deeper? Why does it feel easier to run, to hide, to stay in silence, than to simply say, I feel you? Because the truth is, being seen by your mirror is terrifying. Not because there's no love, but because there's too much of it, too much truth, too much reflection, too much soul. Have you ever been unable to speak your heart, even when your soul was screaming with love? Drop a comment and let your story become someone else's medicine. The love is real. So why the silence? You feel it in the way their presence lingers, even after they've gone, in the way your energy shifts when they think of you, without a single word spoken. You feel it in the way your soul softens and your heart races just from their name. This is not ordinary love. This is soul-level recognition. This is the type of connection that bends time, collapses logic, and breaks every rule you thought applied to human relationships. So why, then, is it so hard to speak? Why can't the ones who feel the most say the most? Why does the very person you feel safest with in spirit become the one you're most guarded with in real life? It's confusing, frustrating, heart-wrenching, and yet it's incredibly common in the twin flame journey. Because when two souls mirror each other that deeply, when the love runs not just through the heart, but through every energetic layer, words can feel like both a bridge and a battlefield. To speak would be to unravel, to be exposed, to be seen in places where you've never even let yourself look. And that is terrifying, because this love doesn't let you perform. It doesn't let you hide. It doesn't play by the rules of ego or pride. This love knows everything. Even in silence it sees. Even in distance it touches. So when you sit across from them, or when you're in their energetic field, you're not just talking to a person. You're talking to the mirror, to the reflection of your unhealed pain, your forgotten dreams, your deepest fears, and your highest potential. You're not afraid of them. You're afraid of you in front of them. You're afraid of how much you want to be understood. You're afraid that if you speak, the illusion will break, that maybe they don't feel it like you do, or worse, that they feel it exactly like you do, and still don't know what to do with it. So you silence yourself, hold it in, talk around the truth, or walk away entirely. But here's what's wild. They're doing the same thing. They feel you. They want to say it. They rehearse the words. They feel the pressure in their chest when they don't speak, but they're just as afraid. Afraid of ruining it, afraid of being vulnerable, afraid that the intensity will swallow them whole. So both of you wait, both of you hold back, both of you ache in parallel silence. And still, the love grows. Still, the energy moves. Still, the bond lives, even without language. This is not dysfunction. This is sacred discomfort, a necessary unraveling that precedes deeper connection. Because twin flames don't communicate like the rest of the world. You talk in energy, you speak in dreams, you converse through mirrors, through timing, through internal awakenings. But eventually, something must shift because the silence becomes too heavy. The body begins to ache with unspoken truth, and the soul can't keep folding itself just to protect the mind. So the question becomes, how do we move from energetic knowing to embodied truth? How do we begin to express without destroying what feels so fragile? How do we honor the depth without letting fear block the bridge? It starts not with forcing words, but with cultivating presence, with becoming so anchored in your own truth that you no longer speak to be heard, but to be clear, with becoming so safe in your own energy that nothing they say or don't say can shake your knowing, because the silence isn't here to punish you. It's here to purify you, to strip away illusion, to invite both of you into deeper alignment, where words are no longer shields, but offerings. So if you've been asking, why can't we talk if we love each other this much? Know this. You're not broken. You're not alone. You're not imagining the connection. You're just walking through the sacred fire that burns away everything false, until only the truth remains. And once the truth is lived, the words will come. You've probably felt it. That strange, haunting paradox of twin flame love, so pure, yet so hard to hold. Because the truth is, the problem isn't the depth of the love. It's that this love reflects too much. In the presence of your twin flame, the mirror is crystal clear. There's no place to hide, no mask that stays on, no way to pretend. And for most people, especially those who've built identities around protection, that's terrifying. Because this kind of connection doesn't just show you how much love you're capable of receiving. It also shows you how much fear you still carry, how many parts of yourself you haven't accepted, how many lies you've told yourself to feel safe. When your twin flame looks at you, they see the you behind the you. the wounded child, the guarded heart, the hidden rage, the divine light that even you sometimes forget is there. And guess what? You see all of that in them too. It's why the love is so magnetic and so destabilizing, because unlike ordinary relationships, twin flame connections aren't built on compatibility. They're built on activation. Your presence alone triggers awakenings in them and vice versa. And those awakenings aren't always gentle. They reveal shame, expose wounds, illuminate emotional places you've avoided for years, maybe lifetimes. And that's when love begins to feel unsafe. Not because love is the problem, but because what it exposes makes you feel vulnerable, raw, open, too visible. Suddenly, speaking your truth feels like stepping into fire, not because you fear rejection, but because you fear being seen that clearly and then rejected anyway. You fear that if you open up and they don't respond the way you hope, it will confirm your deepest wound, that you are too much or not enough, or somehow unworthy of this kind of love. So instead of speaking, you close down. Smile through the ache. Stay silent, even as your soul screams. And they do the same. Because what neither of you fully understood in the beginning was this: the mirror would be this intense. You thought love would heal, and it does. But first, it breaks. It breaks the ego, breaks the illusion, breaks the protective identity you built to survive. That's the true danger of the mirror. Not that it shows you your wounds, but that it invites you to face them. And in facing them, you realize just how much power you gave to fear. But here's the beauty. The mirror doesn't just show your pain, it shows your power. It shows the love you are capable of holding, the wisdom you carry in your silence, the truth you've always known but didn't trust enough to say. And the more you soften into that, the less unsafe love begins to feel, not because it becomes easier, but because you become stronger, more anchored, more sovereign, more ready to meet this connection from your soul, not your survival mode. So if you feel paralyzed in front of your twin flame, if the words choke in your throat and all you want to do is run, you're not failing, you're feeling. And feeling means the mirror is working. Let it reflect, let it soften, let it show you the way back to yourself. Because when love feels unsafe, it's usually pointing to a place inside you that's ready to be healed. And once that place is met, the silence will start to break. If twin flames feel such deep love for each other, Why do they hold back their truth? Why, instead of opening up, do they shut down? The answer lies in two of the most primal emotional fears: being fully seen and losing what you love once you are. Because being loved for the mask is safe. But being loved after showing your deepest self, that's vulnerability. And vulnerability is where the ego trembles. In twin flame connections, the intensity of love often awakens a silent terror. What if I'm not enough once they see the real me? Or worse, what if I am enough and they still walk away? This fear of exposure isn't just about secrets or past pain. It's about identity. It's about all the things you've tried to hide from yourself, suddenly being felt by someone else without a word spoken. They feel you, you feel them, and that level of transparency can feel overwhelming, like you've lost all your inner boundaries, like you're standing emotionally naked. And on the other side of that exposure is the second fear: loss. Because you don't just want them to see you, you want them to stay. But love like this, the kind that touches your soul, comes with no guarantees. And that's terrifying. You think, if I stay silent, I won't ruin it. If I don't say it, I won't scare them away. If I don't admit how much I care, maybe I won't feel the pain of losing them. But silence becomes its own kind of loss. You end up grieving a love that never got to be lived in the open. You carry conversations in your head that never reached their ears. You replay moments, wondering what could have been if you had just spoken, or if they had. And here's the truth: they're afraid too. They feel the same exposure, the same pressure, the same longing, paired with the same fear of doing it wrong, saying too much, being too real. Twin flame love brings up the very parts of you that are scared to lose control, scared to be the first one to open, scared to take a risk in a love that already feels like it's living inside you. So you both stay quiet, not because you don't care, but because you care so deeply, it paralyzes you. But silence isn't protection. It's a cage. And at some point, the soul begins to ache, not for certainty, but for truth. Not because truth guarantees union, but because truth is the only thing that sets both of you free. So if you're afraid to speak, to express what lives in your heart, ask yourself this: is the fear of loss greater than the ache of holding it all in? Because when love is this real, it deserves to be felt fully. And sometimes, the most sacred thing you can do is let your truth breathe. Even if your voice shakes, even if they don't answer, even if the outcome isn't what you hoped, because love isn't always about the other person understanding. Sometimes it's about you no longer hiding, and that alone is healing. Some of the deepest silences between twin flames are not born out of indifference, but out of protection, a kind of soul-level agreement made not with words, but with energy, a contract that says, I will hold back my truth because I know you're not ready to hold it. I will carry this quietly because I'd rather suffer in silence than trigger your collapse. It's not weakness, it's reverence. Because twin flames don't just feel love, they feel everything. The shadows, the resistance, the inner wars that words would only complicate. And sometimes the silence between them is a sacred pause, a spiritual buffer zone, a breath between lifetimes of karmic wounds rising to the surface. It's an unspoken contract of compassion, a soul whisper that says, I see how much you're carrying, and I won't make it heavier. I feel how close you are to the edge, and I won't push you over. But here's the catch. These unspoken contracts only protect for a time. Eventually, they become blocks, barriers, emotional holding patterns that delay the healing that both souls came here to experience. The intention may have been pure, but the outcome becomes stagnation. Because real healing doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from moving through it. It's beautiful to be gentle, to feel someone's struggle and love them where they are. But if that love silences your truth indefinitely, it begins to poison the connection. You start to feel resentment, loneliness, confusion. You wonder if the love was ever mutual, when in fact it was just mutually unspoken. That's why twin flames must learn to balance compassion with courage. Yes, protect, but don't withhold the truth that wants to rise. Yes, feel where they are, but don't abandon where you are. Because your truth, when spoken from love, not ego, doesn't break the connection. It awakens it. If you've stayed silent, thinking you were being kind, ask yourself, is your silence still serving them, or is it now suppressing you? Sometimes the most sacred act of love is breaking the old energetic agreement and finally saying what the soul has held for lifetimes. Not to control, but to free. Twin flame healing doesn't come through convincing. It doesn't come from trying harder, saying more, or waiting longer. It comes through one simple but sacred force: presence. Presence doesn't beg, it doesn't push, it doesn't chase timelines or demand answers. Presence holds, observes, expands. And in the twin flame dynamic, where emotions are amplified and wounds are mirrored, presence becomes the most healing energy there is. Because the truth is, you cannot force someone into awakening. You cannot talk them into remembering what their soul already knows. And when you try, even from love, it creates resistance. The more you press, the more they pull away. Not because they don't care, but because your urgency activates their fear. Your longing speaks to their shadow. Your pressure makes their walls rise higher. That's why healing begins not when you get closer to them, but when you get closer to you. When you sit with your own grief without needing them to fix it. When you stop rehearsing the perfect message and start anchoring into truth. When you no longer shrink to keep them comfortable, but rise to keep yourself whole. In that space, something changes. You're no longer sending energetic signals of need me. You're vibrating, I'm here, in truth, in light, in love. And whether they're conscious of it or not, they feel that. They may not reply, may not return, but their soul registers the shift. Because presence is magnetic. It doesn't demand, it invites. It creates a container where both of you can breathe again. Not under pressure, but in potential. That's where real communication can begin. Not from tension, but from resonance. So if your connection feels stuck, ask yourself, am I being present? Or am I applying pressure? Because healing doesn't need force, it needs space. And when you hold that space for yourself first, you become the mirror that reflects what they forgot they were capable of. Presence isn't passive. It's power, the kind that says, I will not control this. I will not chase this. But I will hold the light until it's safe to speak. You've probably wondered, if the connection is so real, why can't we just say it? Why does it feel easier to feel everything than to speak anything? The answer is simple and soul deep, because truth must be lived before it can be spoken. In twin flame dynamics, words are powerful, but they only land when the energy behind them is anchored. Otherwise, they're just noise. Reactions, echoes of wounds, not reflections of truth. And so the journey becomes less about having the conversation and more about becoming the vibration. You don't need to explain your love when your presence already radiates it. You don't need to justify your silence when your energy speaks louder than words. Eventually, the moment comes. The silence breaks. The words arrive. But by then, you're different. You no longer speak to be validated. You speak because truth has overflowed. And the person on the other side, your twin flame, feels it. not as pressure, but as permission. Because your embodiment gives them the courage to speak too, to lower the mask, to say what they never thought they'd be able to say. Not because you forced it, but because you lived it. You lived the love. You walked the awakening. You held the mirror without running. You chose your soul over the illusion of control. And in that, the words become natural. They may come softly. They may come years later. They may come in the form of an apology, a dream, a look, a message, a single sentence that unravels everything. But when they come, you'll know they're real, because they're no longer coming from fear. They're coming from remembrance. So don't rush the words. Don't chase the clarity. Live the truth, because once the soul is safe, the mouth will follow. And when that happens, you won't just be heard, you'll be met.